What's up, everybody? Matt Gajewski here, back again talking college football, and it is week 11 today. We are talking the Thursday doubleheader. Really exciting games, both totals above 60 points, so we should see some fireworks. Before we get started, if you like this content, please consider subscribing to the channel or leaving a like. Those two things help us a lot. Thank you if you've done either of them. And if you have a request, we are still taking them for the Friday video. Anything we missed throughout the week, we already have our marquee video out for Saturday. But if you want to hear about a different game, please let me know in the comments. Last thing, if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, please call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. All right. Starting in the Sun Belt, we have two teams battling for bowl eligibility in Georgia Southern and App State. Georgia Southern is 3-5. App State is 4-4 at this point. Georgia Southern not gone according to plan for the most part. Their wins are against Georgia State, 24-41. Pretty good beat down there. Then they beat FCS Maine and Jacksonville State by a touchdown. Their losses included a pretty bad loss to Fresno State in the opener. They lost to USC, of course. James Madison, 35-10. Southern missed by 3 points. That was a game they probably should have won. They had a 57% post-game win expectancy, and most recently, we saw them lose to Arkansas State by 10 points. For App State, this team comes in 4-4. They have a win over Charlotte and FCS Lindenwood, a crazy shootout back and forth against Oregon State, where they only had a 12% post-game win expectancy and required a pretty late interception to take home that game. Then they beat Georgia State 41-20. Their losses include Southern Miss, Boise State, Coastal Carolina, and Old Dominion. They lost to Old Dominion in their most recent contest. They only had a 9% post-game win expectancy, but that still came down to a field goal. Both teams had 7 penalties, kind of some weird stuff in the game. App State threw an interception at the Old Dominion 27. That was converted to a touchdown. They threw another one at the Old Dominion 20. However, Old Dominion missed a field goal. Actually, Old Dominion missed 3 field goals, and they had an interception themselves at the App State 6. So a lot of turnovers in scoring position for these offenses and a lot of missed field goals for Old Dominion that probably could have been a bit worse. There's a lot of injuries in this game, especially on the App State side. Now, both teams do come off a bye, so that should help the health. But on offense, there are quite a few players that are going to miss this game for Georgia Southern. Josh Dallas, River Helms, 2 skill players, Caleb Williams in the offensive line, some defenders like Devon Hicks at linebacker, Latrell Bullard on the defensive line, and Chance Gamble. He might be back at defensive back. For App State, A.J. Swan has not been healthy at quarterback. More on that when we talk about the offense for App State. But Kanye Roberts been out for the year at running back. William Fowles missed their last game at receiver. Isaiah Cummings has already been ruled out at tight end. He's their 3rd leading receiver. A lot of O-line injuries. They lost Poindexter really early in the year. Both Ramseys, Trent and Jaden Ramsey, were both out their last game, as well as Lance Williams. And then defensively, Thomas Davis on the edge, Cam Fleming, and Jaden McBurrows defensive back. We're going to start with the road team's offense, Georgia Southern running that air raid. 60% completion percentage for J.C. French, 7.1 yards per attempt. He has 8 big-time throws, 9 turnover-worthy plays, and 6 interceptions, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me how many risks he's taking, because this offense, generally speaking, is not pushing the ball downfield. And they've run the ball more this year, maybe to take the ball out of his hands. 51st in pass rate. Generally, this team is around the top 10 in both pass rate and pace. They've slowed to 33rd in pace, but the pass rate dropping to 51st is a bit surprising. I think they're just limited at quarterback. And it's not like they've been playing from ahead. This team is 3-5. He takes a lot of sacks as well. He has 20 sacks and a 26% pressure rate. That means his pressure to sack ratio comes in at 26% as well. That's just too high. But he also is working with limited receivers. You lose Dallas, that kind of hurts. 8.3% drop rate for these players. It's basically just Camden Brown, the Auburn transfer. He's been awesome. 642 yards. Then you have Dalen Cobb and Marcus Sanders. These are 2 complementary receivers that have been forced into full-time roles. They're both barely over 300 yards. And then you can't push the ball downfield anyway. Part of that is because I'm not really sure you have the best skill players. I'm not sure the offensive line is that good. It has excellent efficiency metrics for the Sun Belt, but I think their opponents have been pretty weak. You face Jacksonville State, James Madison, and Southern Miss. Those are the best defensive lines you've played. What is that really saying about your schedule? Either way, it's still probably going to be an above average offensive line most of the way. They are led by Caleb Cook, and he's a guard. Maybe this truly is just the skill players aren't very good for this team, because like 114th in receiving, you have the players to be better, I think. Like Camden Brown's a former 4-star. OJ Arnold, 5.8 yards per attempt on the ground. I can't really understand why this unit has played so poorly this year, and they come in 3-5. And part of this is offensive struggles. Like, this team does not move the ball well. They can't push the ball downfield. Honestly, maybe the true answer is just J.C. French is not that good of a quarterback. Because when you put everything together, it looks like this team should have not the best receiving room, but a pretty good unit. And the offensive line has at least lived up to expectation against their opponents, although they've been fairly weak. Now you play App State's defense. I won't say this defense is impenetrable by any means. They're a little better up front compared to the back end for sure. 44th in run defense, 13th in pass rush. They've only played one top 50 offense all year. It was Old Dominion, and Colton Joseph immediately got them for 9.2 yards per attempt. They also allowed some production to Malik Murphy earlier in the year, the Oregon State QB, 8 yards per attempt. Boise State's Maddox Madsen, 8.4. Braylon Braxton of Southern Miss, 9.0. That explains your 105th coverage ranking. Only Coastal Carolina's been above 4.5 yards per carry. They were at 6. But even just looking at their players, Colton Forrest at linebacker, Kevin Abrams, Verwain on the edge, and Rondo Porter at defensive tackle. Those are your main difference makers for this unit. You can throw the ball over the top of App State. I don't know if Georgia Southern really has the juice to do it. That's a big question. I think they'll find some success and then maybe meet some resistance as well, just with the limitations the offense has by itself. For App State, I think A.J. Swan's going to play in this game. He's been hurt. Their coach did a press conference before the bye because J.J. Cole started their previous game, and then A.J. Swan came in, and basically he said they were down 3 offensive linemen. Swan's not 100%. He didn't want to throw Swan out there behind that battered unit unless he had to. And he had to. Now you have the bye, so Swan should be healthier. The O-line hopefully is a little healthier. They were down 3 starters in their last game. I don't know, but Swan has been better than Cole. 62% completion percentage, 7.6 yards per attempt, 6 big-time throws, 6 turnover-worthy plays, and all of them have been converted to interception. He's run pretty poorly there. He's only taken 5 sacks, which is a bit surprising. That's a pretty good sack ratio, pressure to sack ratio for him. And the receivers have been awful the entire season, whether it's been Cole or Swan. 14 drops for Swan, 10 for Cole. Both of those are above 10%. It's a kind of an untenable situation with these receivers. Luckily, their run game is so strong because you added an Arkansas transfer, Rashad Dubinian. He's at 5.5 yards per carry. Very good situation there. They're well above average in the run game. Jaden Barnes, Dalton Stroman are your leading receivers, both barely above 400 yards. Davion Dozier is back, which should help because Dozier comes back, he plays a little bit, then you lose your dynamic tight end, Isaiah Cummings. He is a P4 transfer, and he creates a lot of mismatches from that tight end position. So I still think you're limited at receiver. Unfortunately, they just haven't had all these guys healthy the entire year. But this is sort of the opposite of Georgia Southern on the offensive line. App State is 120th in pass blocking, 72nd in run blocking, and they've also played pretty bad defensive lines the whole year with the exception of Southern Miss. Now, very injured. I'm curious to see who they get back out of both Ramses. Poindexter, I doubt will be back in this game. But currently, your interior is your best group. Griffin Scroggs, Caden Sweat. The tackles are awful. And part of that is both of them got hurt. So maybe getting back like a Jaden Ramsey, if that happens, could benefit this unit, but that remains to be seen. They're facing Georgia Southern's defense, who still comes in dead last, 136th, mainly because of what they've allowed on the ground and their inability to rush the passer. They're actually 102nd in coverage, which still isn't good, but their stats look okay. I think this is mainly just teams know they don't have to throw, so why would they? Braylon Braxton's the only player above 8.5 yards per attempt. But man, this run defense has been horrible. They've been a little better of late, so I think early season run defense is doing a lot of the work bringing this unit in dead last, but man, App State should be able to run the ball here. That's where their offensive line is better. That's where their best player is, Rashad Dubinian. So, man, I guess your edges are okay, MJ Stroud and Ferguson, but that's a mainly pass rushing, and they're not even good there. Your interior defensive line and your linebacker rooms are just really bad, man. Dorian Smith's the best player in the back end, but it should come as no surprise. This defense has legitimate problems. That's how you get them ranked dead last. We do show some value in App State and the over. I'm a little nervous for it. I probably should not be, considering the state of this Georgia Southern defense and the limitations of their offense. But man, App State -5 is starting to look a little intriguing to me. I'm going to debate this off stream throughout the day. It's been coming down too, so that's another reason I haven't played it. You could get to an over. Pace is fine in this game. Both teams top 35. Both teams will pass the ball a ton. 2 pass versus air raid offenses. We're going to pause on both, but that's where we lean. Pretty good chance I end up on one of App State or the over in this game. Second contest, real implications in the American. We have UTSA taking on USF. USF is a 14-point favorite, 68 total in the game. We just saw UTSA play spoiler to Tulane last week. They win 48-26, absolutely dominated Tulane, who had 4 turnovers. And the recipe to that game was basically spy Jake Retzlaff, take away his legs, let him beat himself. And that's exactly what happened. That probably could have been even worse. They did lose to North Texas, however. They lost to Temple, they lost to Texas State and Texas A&M earlier this year. So it has not been all good for UTSA. This team does come in 4-4. Their wins on top of Tulane include Rice. That was a blowout, but Rice did not have their starting quarterback. They beat Colorado State, who's very weak. That was by 1 point, and they had a 43% post-game win expectancy, and they beat Incarnate Word. So yes, they have the excellent Tulane data point. None of their other wins are all that impressive, and they have quite a few losses. But the Texas State loss, 55% post-game win expectancy. You kind of trade that for the Colorado State game where you came in the exact opposite. Temple, they had a 52% post-game win expectancy. It's been a better season than the numbers would indicate. South Florida, they are off a bye. Most recently played Memphis, lost 54% post-game win expectancy in that contest. Just a weird game, man. I think the most important thing to look at is this team had a chance, I don't know, maybe to – so basically the last sequence before they go and lose the game, they had a chance to kick a game-winning field goal. But the play before, they essentially had 20 seconds or something. They take a shot to the end zone, get a penalty on the play, brings them back 10 yards, makes the field goal 52 yards, they miss it, lose the game. So kind of tough for South Florida with that situation against Memphis. Their only other losses to Miami, so it's been an excellent season for them. Obviously, they had the non-con wins over Boise and Florida. In conference, they beat down Charlotte. They beat down North Texas, which is very impressive, crushed FAU, and then most recently that Memphis game. For injuries, UTSA has some on the offensive line. Luke Lepezzi's the big one. Willie McCoy hasn't played much this year at receiver, and Jakevian Rogers, one of their defensive backs, has been out. For South Florida, the big one is Chaz Nimrod. Looks like he's going to return in this game at receiver. A couple other players have been out for a while, but nothing too big for USF other than the Nimrod situation. Owen McCown, the UTSA quarterback, has a 67% completion percentage, 6.7 yards per attempt, 8 big-time throws, 9 turnover-worthy plays, only 10 sacks. It's been an average to above average season for him. He needs to cut down on the turnover-worthy plays and the 10 sacks, but otherwise it's been decent. The best player on the entire offense is Robert Henry. He has 8 yards per carry, 955 yards, 15 catches. He almost has 1,000 yards rushing already, and he's doing a ton for the offense because the wide receiver room has not been the best. They've battled injury, so little caveat there. Devin McEwen leads that group, 460 yards. And then it's sort of a complementary group. A.J. Wilson's your field stretcher. He's at nearly 21 yards per reception. David Amador is your underneath receiver. They're pretty multiple with the tight ends. They use 3 of them in Houston Thomas, Dan Dishman, and Patrick Overmeyer. But they're still kind of a limited receiving group, whether that's the personnel or just Owen McCown. That's hard to say. So Robert Henry doing a lot of the heavy lifting has been important. And he's doing a lot of it himself. This offensive line is, for like the 8th consecutive year, extremely banged up. They're 105th in pass blocking, 94th in run blocking. They have faced some very good defensive line. It's been a tough slate of opposing pass rushes. But really, you only have DeAndre Marshall. Everyone else is around average. And then DeAndre Marshall's playing right tackle. Your left tackle, Kamar Missouri, has been absolutely awful. So it's sort of an imbalanced unit that's probably not going to get any better. Robert Henry, being as good as he is, has been a revelation for this team. And then you go to USF's defense. They're 93rd. They played a very difficult slate of opponents, even on top of the Power 4 teams. Brendan Lewis, not 7.1 yards per attempt. He's the only one that had a lot of success through the air. Even like a DJ Lagway was at 6.7 yards per attempt. So pass defense has been all right. They're 84th there. They've held most of their non-Power 4 teams below 3.9 yards per carry. So I almost think there's room for this defense to grow because the schedule's been so hard. You have Florida, you have Miami, you've already played Memphis. It's a tough schedule they've faced. They have 2 elite linebackers, Mac Harris, Jalen Schuler. Up front, Trevion Mitchell's been pretty good at defensive tackle. It's going to be hard to run on this team, harder than most. So it's sort of this strength for UTSA meeting the strength for USF, who wins out. I tend to think USF has a slight advantage there. And then if you are throwing on the back end, James Duclona at defensive back, Tavin Ward have been pretty good. They're the top players in the secondary, but you can beat them if you can stretch them out. I'm not sure that UTSA can do that. On the other side, excellent season so far from Byron Brown, 62.5% completion, 7.9 yards per attempt. He has 13 Big Ten throws, 9 turnover-worthy plays, only taken 12 sacks this year too. It's maybe a little high, but he holds the ball in order to make some of the dynamic plays that we've seen him make. His receivers also have a 10.5% drop rate. That's been a huge problem for them all year. They're only 84th in receiving efficiency because of those drops. Now, Chaz Nimrod coming back will probably help. He's missed 2 games, and he still leads the team in receiving. Keyshawn Singleton and Mudia Rubin, the Stanford transfer, have been okay in his absence. They've had to play some freshmen. It's been all right in the receiving game. That's just not how they win. Their leading rusher is Byron Brown still. He is 596 yards, but efficiency from Sam Franklin and Nakai Davenport, both above 6 yards per carry. The run game is excellent. They're 35th in rushing efficiency. And the offensive line is much better than they haven't played one of Connor McLaughlin leads them. Derek Bowman is the weak link. I would still say this unit is not elite, but now they've climbed to above average. It's a pretty good defensive line. And they're facing UTSA. UTSA is 118th in total defense. They're not really good anywhere. Their best mark, 79th in pass rush. A couple of quarterbacks have found success aerially against them. Jake Retzlaff was at 8.3 yards per attempt. Most of that was garbage time, off coverage stuff. Drew Mestemaker hit them for 8.5 yards per attempt from North Texas. He'll do that, so that needs to be noted. But they've done a great job against the weaker teams. They've done a great job in run defense against the weaker teams. They are playing a pretty nasty defensive line rotation, and they're all over the map efficiency-wise, so it's hard to really give them an overall grade. I wish they would just trim the fat, but they don't seem intent on doing that. They do have one elite linebacker in Shad Banks, but the back 7 is major weaknesses. Only Jimmy Wyrick comes in well above average. It's kind of a pick your poison on UTSA. Depending on the personnel they have on their front 7, you can run the ball on them just fine. You can certainly throw the ball over the top. Just avoid Shad Banks, and you should be able to score on this team, which leads me to a USF side. But we don't show a lot of value. We make this just outside the 14, a little closer to 17. It's pretty efficient. It's not one I plan to take, but that's where we lean if you do intend to take something in this game. Overall, we show the most value on the App State side. We're going to debate that throughout the day, but want to see the injury report for App State more than anything else, given all those offensive line injuries. But that'll do it for us today. Thank you guys for watching. Leave a request in the comments if you have it. Leave some feedback if you have that. Otherwise, we'll see you again tomorrow for more college football. Until then, good luck.